Okay, so I've got 3:25, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Anne Marie Townsend. I'm the city manager of Lewes, Delaware, and my colleague with me today, who will be doing the bulk of the presentation, is Shelby Shockley, who is our HR administrator, and we want to talk about workplace culture and employee engagement and how we've used a book called The Energy Bus to work to set the tone. We are not going to tell you that we have all the answers and that our workplace culture is perfect and that there are no issues, but we think we're on a good path and we think we've got a good process and we want to share it. So I'll give you a sense of how we got to where we are. The City of Lewes is a small organization. Right now we have about 43 full-time employees, between 40 and 43. So it's a small workforce. We divided into three large departments. We have our police department, our maintenance department, and everything else we call admin. And what we found, so I started in 2017, and one of the things I noticed in late 2018 is we had police officers that did not know the people who worked in City Hall. And we had people in City Hall who didn't know the people who performed building maintenance or did, picked up the trash or the police officers. And in a small organization with less than 50 full-time employees, that seems, it seems like we should all at least know each other to say hi when we pass in the hallway or pass on the street. So in spring of 2019, we held a team building workshop. And we brought in the University of Delaware's conflict resolution, not because there was conflict, but their conflict resolution program has good facilitators. And we did, I think it was about 6 hours of activities and interaction that, let us get to know our own styles and the styles of our colleagues. But we also had breakout groups and discussion and really kind of got some issues on the table. We actually learned a lot. I don't think that we thought that our culture was broken, but we certainly learned that there was a lot that needed to be improved and that employee engagement was not strong. So we set out on how do we turn that around. And I put this as core squared, and the way we got this is we came out of that day with 3 areas where staff felt that we needed to improve. And, no big deal, just 3 areas: communication, recognition, and respect. They don't matter, do they? So we found that, these were 3 areas where we really needed to concentrate on how we could better recognize the employees for the work they did, better just have more respect, both staff to supervisor, staff, peer to peer, supervisor to staff, all throughout the organization. And really everything, in my view, comes down to communication. That, and for a while after this, I did a monthly newsletter that went out, and more recently we've replaced it with what's called the City Spotlight, which is done by Sue Ann, who's my executive assistant. But we tried to work on tools to better communicate with staff. And so this has been a priority that has evolved over time, but these 3 areas: communication, recognition, and respect. Out of that workshop, we asked people in a questionnaire, would they be willing to serve on an employee engagement committee? So we created our employee engagement committee, and for the first year and a half to maybe even more than that, I kind of chaired that committee. We were trying to pull it together. But what we determined over time was that you don't want your senior management on the employee engagement committee because you want the employees to speak freely. So then we decided to take a ride on the energy bus. And I had used the energy bus before in some team building things. I have friends who are teachers where the schools have used it to try to build team, a team atmosphere among the teachers in the school. Um, so we brought this idea forward. So in late 2019, um, we took the book The Energy Bus, which is written by Jon Gordon. I strongly encourage you to read it. It's a very quick read. We had all of our employees read the book. Now, not everybody was thrilled that they were given a reading assignment, but it was a short book. It's not an onerous book to get through. And what we did is we set up groups. We had, I think, 3 or 4 different groups that, everybody was represented in one of them. And all of the groups had people from the various department areas. And we had volunteer facilitators that would facilitate the discussion on the book. And we had a number of employees who got on the bus, so to speak. And one of the things with reading the book and discussing the book, it gave us all a common vocabulary that we would use when we talked about things. So I'll give an example of we made these little tickets, and if people, we would give them out to employees, and they could come back to us and give it to us if they wanted to be on the bus. And we kept a board that had the tickets on it. And I remember an employee who had thought about leaving, was frustrated with a number of things, and he came and he met with me and he said, "I want to be on your bus." So it was really kind of exciting because we were starting to see the culture change. Now, one thing I will say is a culture change is never complete. You have to continue, and this is really where Shelby's going to get into how we're going. And of course, this is all late 2019. We do this, and we're improving, and things are getting better. And then COVID hit. So that certainly changed things because, for a period of time we were working, many of us remotely. We still had our staff that needed to come in. I think just COVID threw everything for a loop, but we didn't give up. I'm going to say I do believe we took a few steps back with all of that, but we didn't give up, and we continued to work through the employee engagement committee. So now I'm going to turn it over to Shelby, who we decided, I guess it was in 2020, that the employee engagement committee was up and running, kick management out of it so that people can speak freely and really have the opportunity to work on things that they own. And that's where Shelby comes in.
Hello, everybody. As Anne-Marie said, my name is Shelby Shockley. I started with the city of Lewes in September of 2020, so it was about 6 months after COVID hit. So there was definitely a lot of changes that had already taken place and that we had to continue to roll with the energy bus. So the energy bus and employees reading that is part of our new hire orientation at the city of Lewes. So a few weeks after an employee is hired, they meet with Anne-Marie, the city manager, and she gives them a recap of why we want everybody to read the book, why it's important for our culture, how we're growing our culture, and everybody is given the Energy Bus book. For those of you who may not have read the book, it is a very quick read, and it's actually really enjoyable, even for those who don't like to read, I think, because it is such a quick and easy read. It's about a man named George, and he's pretty beat down in life. He's unhappy at work, at home, he's miserable, and he has to get his car worked on, which causes him to ride a bus to work. And on the bus, he meets different characters, and they help him pretty much learn to accept himself and look at life in a more positive way, both at home and at work, because they both, as we know, play off of each other. So we give the employee the book, and about a month after they receive the book, I schedule a meeting with the new hires. Being a small city, we tend to only hire 1 or 2 people at a time, so it may be a couple months that someone is here before we fully get together as a group, because we want there to be a good amount of people to really have the meeting be, worth it. And then each employee is emailed a set of questions that they will answer ahead of time. What do they feel about the book? How do they think it relates to their life? What character do they relate to? What was their favorite rule? That's there's 10 rules to the ride of your life. So we ask them to fill out the questionnaire and then come to the meeting prepared to discuss. So I have found that most employees are very receptive to giving feedback. I know we have a couple employees in the past who may not have been thrilled to come to the meeting and speak. Their managers may have had to give them a little push to get them to fill out the questions. But once they get to the meeting, I really find that they open up. They realize that other people in the room have similar experiences as them, relate to the same people, have had the same hills to overcome, and we just have some open discussion. That's really all it is. It's just open discussion, and people really get to know one another better, I think. And it's a chance for them to interact with people in other departments. Usually we have at least one person from each department, one or two represented in the meeting. And as Anne Marie said, sometimes even though we're small, the back office of City Hall might not see the maintenance department guys or the police. So this is a chance for everybody to at least get a initial face-to-face time, and so they can know who's working with them in the city. And as Anne Marie mentioned, it does give us some common vocabulary, especially starting out, in a new job. You can relate to others you work with. A couple of them are energy vampires, being the driver of your own bus, and driving with a purpose. So just a couple of the common words or phrases that come from the book. So this is the website for the Energy Bus. I highly recommend everybody checking it out. I'm not sure if anybody has read it. If you want to share in the chat whether or not you've read the Energy Bus, if you like it, any thoughts, you can certainly throw that out there. But it really is a good book, and it sticks with you after you read it. So the energybus.com is where you can see the book. You can see other books that Jon Gordon has written. He has a lot of other really good books. And they also have free posters. No energy vampires allowed. My positive energy is greater than anyone's doubt. And the 10 rules for the ride of your life. So you can see there, I'm not going to read them all, but the 10 rules that are kind of the core of the book are listed. And I know that we have them. We want to get back into posting more and kind of frequently changing them out within departments, but we do have, the 10 rules posted where different staff can read it, just kind of as a reminder as to why it's important to be positive, why it's important to be a team, and how quickly, sometimes people can backslide, but you can certainly, have a more positive outlook on things. That is the website.
Shelby, do you want to let them know what an energy vampire is? Because this was a really interesting term, and it's interesting when an employee comes to you and they'll say, so and so is a real energy vampire, and you understand what they're talking about.
Yes. So an energy vampire is, unfortunately, we all have them, I think, but somebody in the workplace who really is just a downer and can suck the positive energy out of anyone that they talk to. This person could sit next to you at work, or you might eat lunch in the lunchroom with them, and as soon as you sit down, they just start complaining about everything under the sun. How it's not fair, how they're not, everything wrong with everything. And then, maybe not right away, you try to be positive, but over time you find that you become negative yourself, and you start looking at things the way that this energy vampire did, and now all of a sudden you're an energy vampire and you're sharing all the negative energy. So that's what the energy vampire is, and that's what, one of the rules is, no energy vampires allowed. And I think, once you read the bus, it does arm you with some tools to stop the energy vampires, and sometimes they can't be stopped and they have to get off the bus, which is, again, the book goes into more detail on those that decide to get on the bus and those that decide not to get on the bus. Unfortunately, there are both in workforces. So the engagement committee, shortly after I started, I took over as the chairperson for the engagement committee, and we meet quarterly. In the beginning, it was difficult. I think we had to have a couple Zoom meetings, which is a little bit difficult with especially trying to really harness engagement. But thankfully, we were able to get back to in-person meetings. So we have them quarterly. And something else that I started was to have engagement representatives from each department. So I wanted at least 2 people from our maintenance, our police, and our city administration to be present at every meeting. And these people kind of took an agreement that they were going to be at the meetings, they were going to take the information back and share it, they were going to really communicate what was going on in the engagement committee and just kind of help push out what we were, working on to their coworkers. Anybody can come within, we want to make sure our department staff, but we try to encourage others other than the representatives to come to the meetings. And we try to rotate too. If some of the departments, like our administration department has a lot of people who are interested. So sometimes some people stay back and the next group, we go so that it's fair to everybody. And as Anne Marie mentioned, we closed it to all managers because we wanted people to feel comfortable sharing. And some of the things that we discuss, as I'll get into a little bit more in the meetings, a lot of people might not feel comfortable sharing if their manager's sitting in the meeting. And what we discuss are ways to improve communication, recognition, and respect. Even now, we're 2019, 3 years later, still working on those because we always have room to grow and improve in those areas. And we want to work on how to help the city grow and the staff grow as a team. So some of the main things we talk about. And I feel employees really speak very honestly in these meetings. Sometimes it's hard to hear some of the things that are shared, but I know it's important for them to have a voice and to be able to share them, and then we can grow. Nobody wants to hear that somebody's unhappy or they might not like something that maybe we've been working on, but it's the only way we're going to learn, how to improve. So some of the outcomes that we've seen is we recently created a calendar of events for each department. We realize a lot of our maintenance staff and even some police with their schedules don't have a chance to use the Outlook calendar or even access their emails. So we tried to put as many events as we could on a calendar for each department for the whole year. And each department will get one, and then they'll be able to see every month what's going on. And then the employee representatives from each department will be in charge of updating that as things change. We have an administrative birthday and anniversary celebration. That was something that the admin department wanted to be able to celebrate and recognize those who have a birthday and anniversary. We have quarterly potlucks or a couple weeks from now, April 1st, we're going to have a spring / the city's fiscal new year, Happy New Year potluck. We had a chili cook-off in the fall, a Halloween party, everybody dressed up if you wanted. Departments, kind of had themes for dressing up, handed out candy at each department. Hot dog cook-off. We tried to have a bonfire, but that didn't work because of the wind. But it's really a way for people to have a couple, half hour away from their desk, get to know other people in the department and have fun. Like with our chili cook-off, we had different people could volunteer to make chili, and then we had some people judge the chili, and then we had a chili cook-off winner, so they kind of got bragging rights for the year. And a lot of our maintenance staff cooked chili and really seemed to enjoy that, as did everybody. It was a fun time. We developed a more seasonal recognition program. We had a lot of seasonal staff, and our Parks and Marina administrator, who is on the committee, brought to our attention that they were kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the city of Lewes. They didn't get, we have lifeguards, parking, and the marina, and they never come up to City Hall. So a lot of people in City Hall didn't even know who our lifeguards were, who our parking was. Even council didn't know. So we developed a proclamation that the city council read during one of the summer council meetings that said thank you, and they all got a plaque or a paper that said thank you. And we did a seasonal staff lunch where council members, the city manager, the assistant city manager could come down and meet the seasonal staff and say thank you and just get to know them as individuals and thank them for all that they do for the city. Because the summer is one of our biggest times, and they're a big part of that. We have department focus groups where I met with every member except for management of each department, and we really focused on what areas they wanted to improve, and then volunteer opportunities. So we did a city playground mulching volunteer activity, and we hung wreaths at the Veterans Memorial Cemetery at Christmas time. So it just gives people the ability to say, hey, this is what I do as a volunteer activity. If you would like to join. We put it out there for the staff, and it was a good turnout. So we're hoping to have a lot more of those this year as well.
Before we go to the next slide, I just want to say the two things that on this slide, the department focus groups and the first bullet about employees speak freely and honestly at the engagement meetings. And I think this is really important, and Shelby is very good at, in a way that protects people's confidentiality, sharing with myself and the assistant city manager the things we need to hear without attributing it to anybody. We don't even know who's at the meeting. But she's able to bring these issues to us, especially when there are issues that are voiced by multiple people, and we can start to look at what can we do on the management side to improve in that area.
So some of while all of them are important, there were 3 very large outcomes that came from the Employee Engagement Committee over the last year, and they all stemmed from the recognition, respect, and communication goals that were set back in 2019. So recognition was one of them, and a lot of the staff felt like they were not recognized, and their work was not recognized. We do have an annual award, the Elaine Bisbee Award, that all employees can nominate a full-time staff member, and council votes, and then that person wins a monetary prize, and they get their name on a plaque. But a lot of employees didn't feel like that was enough. So we put together the Employee of the Quarter. This is the first quarter, actually, that it's going to roll out, April 1st. Employees can nominate their coworkers, and they can nominate themselves, which is new. The Elaine Bisbee, you can't do that. But a lot of employees felt like sometimes they may do something behind the scenes that no one knows about. Maybe they rolled out a process or found an error that saved the city a lot of money, but their coworkers wouldn't know about it. So we did give them the opportunity to nominate themselves, as well as their coworkers. There is a committee made of members of employees and management staff, and they will determine the winner. So actually, in the 20th is when we'll close the nominations, and then at the end of the month we'll have the committee come vote on the winner, and then all nominations as well as the winner will be held, and then at the end of the year with the Elaine Bisbee, those people will go into that Elaine Bisbee pot that can be considered for that final year prize. And the quarterly winner will get a $50 cash prize. We're going to have their picture hung in the lobby for not only the staff to see, but also the public, so that they can see, who did a good job. And I think it's important to have their picture because, again, some people might not know. They might hear a name but not know a face, and they'll be able to put that together, and then we'll put it on social media posts. So this is just a way to allow coworkers to recognize other coworkers or management if they want to put somebody out there, and let everybody know what a great job they've done. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that that's successful, because it's something that I think everybody will enjoy. We also rolled out a pay matrix for the last couple of years. Even before I was here, employees wanted a pay by performance pay scale. They didn't just want to get everybody get the same raise every year. They wanted it to be based on their performance and how well they do. So the first part of that was developing the matrix. We've done that. Our budget review has been going on the last few weeks and should be finalized hopefully it will be for April 1st. Council will determine the annual raise. I don't want to call it cost of living, but the raise that will go each year as a base raise. And then there's the steps increased. We were able to make one pay matrix, which was our big goal for all departments, even seasonal, to be on one matrix so everybody has the same thing to look at. And then we did add continuing education bumps in there, 1 step increase per 100 continuing education credit hours. That's still a little work on that, but we wanted people to know the importance of continuing their education and wanting to better themselves, and that there is can be a pay increase with that. So what goes hand in hand with the pay matrix was the employee performance evaluation process. We did one last year, but we decided to change it this year. We wanted to try to streamline it into one process that worked for all departments, and have something that we could use every year for consistency in the future. The way that our performance evaluation process works is the employee gets it first. They're able to fill out, there's 7 different sections: communication, attendance, diversity, and equity. There's a couple more, but they can fill out highlighting what they've done, where they want to improve, what they want to do for the year. And really it's a way to sell themselves to their manager and show what a good job they've done. Then the manager gets the performance evaluation back, and they fill out what they think the employee's done, where they think there needs to be improvement, what they want to see them do. And they also worked on SMART goals at the very end that they both had to agree upon. There's still a lot of work in progress with this. You'll see there was some feedback from the engagement committee that came from this. We want to do a lot of training with our managers this year. We did a couple trainings before it rolled out, but we really want to help our managers do complete fair performance evaluations, give solid feedback, and whatever scores they give, the importance of providing feedback with those scores. We have our rating scale: unsatisfactory, needs improvement; satisfactory, which we'll see from the next year they would get the same step increase, which means they would receive the council approved raise, and that would be it. There's commendable, which would be 1 step above the council approved raise, and then outstanding, which is 2 steps above the council approved raise. We rolled this out in December, and it went very quickly because we had been working on it, and we wanted to be able to roll it out ahead of the pay matrix and the budget meetings, because we need to try to put everybody into the pay matrix, and we tried to have the performance evaluations to help us with that. So some of the areas of feedback we got from the engagement committee was that it was rolled out too fast. Employees felt like they didn't have time to even remember what they did all year, which we completely understood. And now I think employees know, we advise them, hey, keep a little notebook or something that shows, or you can remind yourself what you've done, accomplishments, what you want to work on, so that way you're better prepared next year. They felt some of the questions were too generic. We had, last year we had 3 performance evaluations. We had 1 for administration, 1 for police, and 1 for maintenance. We did try to we did combine it this year. We did have a separate one for police because they have a couple extra categories that go into theirs, but for our administration and our maintenance, we had one. And the safety topic was an issue across the board because some employees felt like they were graded too hard or too generically, where their focus on safety might not be the same as the focus at the maintenance department, who drive the trash trucks, and police, who deal with the public. Their focus on safety is a lot different and more strict than somebody who sits in an office would be. So we have some work to do for moving forward, and we told everybody that that's what we knew, that was going to happen. This was we rolled it out, and we knew there'd be areas for improvement. And then the last one was people felt like outstanding is impossible to achieve. It is much harder to achieve an outstanding, especially as a overall goal, because outstanding means that you're walking on water. You've got everything perfect 99% of the time. And we all know that doesn't happen often. It's certainly, you're able to get fives within, each individual category, maybe attendance or safety, but overall a 5 would be very difficult to achieve. We have some work on that. I think maybe just explaining how that works. I don't think removing outstanding works, because then your commendable becomes outstanding. So something always has to be at the top to achieve. I say always, strive for outstanding, but maybe just a better way of figuring out that wording. But we definitely have some areas for improvement, and we are committed to that, which is what we've shared with the engagement committee. So something that started back with the start of the engagement committee was the employee engagement survey. It mirrors the Gallup Q12. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with that, but the questions on the Gallup Q12 are: I know what is expected of me at work. I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right. At work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. In the last 7 days, I have received recognition or praise for doing good work. My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. There is someone at work who encourages my development. At work, my opinions seem to count. The mission or purpose of my company makes me feel my job is important. My associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. I have a best friend at work. In the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress. And this last year, I've had the opportunities at work to learn and grow. So those are the 12.
Can I just jump in on that for a second on how we chose the Q12? We chose the Q12 because the research shows that these are the 12 questions that best measure employee engagement. So you can have, you can pay thousands of dollars to have, a professional firm administer this. We've just done it ourselves. We're not, we're looking to see that we're moving the needle. We're not looking to have the perfect scientific, but these questions, these 12 questions have been shown through a body of research that this is the best measure out there for employee engagement. Sorry, Shelby, just wanted to. And you can Google it and get the questions. It's very simple.
Yes. So it is anonymous, and sometimes I know, if you have a larger department, you can even break it down by department for your results. We can't do that because we're too small. So we just have the overall picture from all staff. Employees can leave specific comments if they wish, and they do. So we completed one in 2019, 2020 with COVID. It didn't happen. And then again in 2021. We don't have 100% participation, but we do get some good feedback. And actually in 2021, we did a prize. So whoever we tracked, we didn't do it by name, but the bottom of our survey had a code that you could submit. And then, we had a random drawing of and then the winner won, $25 gift card for somewhere in Lewes. So that we were kind of hoping that would help stem, some of the people to want to participate. And then after we got the results, I held a focus group with each department, and we went over the survey results from 2019 to 2021 to highlight, some of those areas and what each, department felt where they could grow or why they got what they did. Okay, so areas that we saw that need improvement. Some of the areas were very close. They stayed about the same or within 1 or 2 points of each other. So I just kind of hit the ones that we saw big, either improvement or not, went down. Do you know what is expected of you at work? Was one of them. So something that we wanted to look at from that was, what people, why don't they know what is expected of them at work? A lot of that was communication. Sometimes they feel it's not communicated or they're left out. So we did, a couple things like Emery said, employee spotlights and emails to highlight that communication. We have monthly employee staff meetings that follow our council meetings, and something we recently did was had all department managers go back over their job description with the employees, which is also something that can be done during the performance evaluation. And that was one of the reasons that we changed the performance evaluation so that there could be a bigger discussion around what is expected of you at work, and maybe the gap between what the employee thinks and what the manager thinks. So that could hopefully, answer some of those questions employees may have. The other one was, at work, my opinion seems to count. I think the employee engagement committee were really working on hopefully rolling out what the employees want. Like I said, with the employee of the quarter and the calendars, and just really trying to take what they say at those meetings and turn it into reality in the workforce. So we're coming up on a year, so if we do it again, we'll see if we're able to improve those areas. The most disliked question is, I have a best friend at work. So it's not meant to be literal, but most people read it as literal. Best friend, somebody that they hang out with, somebody that they would share their secrets with, somebody that they know, somebody that they would have dinner with and call on the weekends. So they didn't like that question at all. So we probably will be looking to change that to, I have a trusted colleague at work, to put it more into the work sense than the personal sense. And we find we still need to focus on the communication, the recognition, and respect, which again, the rollout of the new performance evaluation, the pay matrix, and the employee of the quarter are all ways we're hoping that will help improve that, as well as the employee calendar. And some of our events, we're looking at making sure all employees are welcome. Not that they haven't in the past, but sometimes the communication may be lost for those who don't read their emails or have the Outlook. So that's where that calendar is going to help hopefully tie all that together. And then areas that we saw improvement was, I have materials and equipment to do my work right. At work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day, and fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. So that's wonderful. I think I've seen a lot of, there's been a lot of new people hired since I've been here, and I feel like a lot of people work well together, aren't afraid to ask, questions of one another, aren't afraid to pitch in. And I think that goes a long way in, quality work and having the opportunity to do what you do best. So those were areas we saw improvement. So areas for overall improvement, because there's always areas to improve. We definitely have department silos. A lot of that is just our the way we're laid out. Our maintenance department is completely separate in a whole other building down the street. The police department, while they're in the same building, they're on the other side behind a closed door. And then we have our administration on the other side. So a lot of what we're doing in the engagement committee and overall is trying to break those walls down. How can we get people from maintenance to want to come, up here, or us down to them, or how can we get everybody together outside of maybe outside of work, during work, anything that can, what's going to draw everybody in. And we try to take a lot of what we get from that employment engagement committee and make it happen. We're going to continue to improve the performance evaluation process, take what we get from the employees, put it into the process, train our managers so that it can be, the best communication between employee and manager that it can be. We're going to work on improving communication, respect, and recognition. Again, the three things, the matrix, the evaluation, and the employee of the quarter are all ways that I think will help a lot. And it's just getting employees to want to make those happen. Some employees have been here a long time and they might feel that things can't change. So some of the hurdle is trying to show them that it can, and that's only going to happen by having these things done and them seeing that things are changing. I think since I've been here, there's been a lot of things that have changed. So hopefully everybody sees that. We're going to continue to promote and encourage teamwork and employee engagement. Just sticking with the quarterly employee engagement committees, having those potlucks, making sure that we schedule things around the different departments. We know maintenance does trash on Monday and Tuesdays. In the summer, it's really busy for them, so we try to schedule things so that them, and police is very difficult because they do shift work, but just making sure that everybody can attend, and then it's up to them if they want to attend. And then we want to get back in the habit of referencing the energy bus. Anne Marie and I were talking the other day about printing out those free posters, hanging them up, using the vocabulary more, and kind of just getting back into referencing that culture and words and reasoning for the energy bus, because I think it's really is a good process to have. I think, oh no, I have one more slide. Oh no, I don't. Okay, that's it.
So that's our presentation. I think one thing that really made me realize that things are improving, even if we're not totally where we want to be, is that an employee who was hired in, I think, 2020 or 2021 referenced the positive workplace culture. And I think some of us who, have been working very hard to get to that were pleasantly surprised that it is something that a new employee just sees as something that exists, not something that we've had to push for. The other thing, though, is I think it is something that a positive workplace culture does not happen by accident. It has to be a constant effort. And I think as soon as and I think honestly, I'll be honest, I think once we got into the pandemic, we got a little complacent and slid back a little. So I think it's really important not to become complacent and not to feel like, okay, we've achieved it and stop watching it, because once you kind of stop keeping your eyes on it, it's going to go back to, everybody's busy, everybody's overloaded. It can be very easy to slide back. So it is a constant effort.
Anybody have any questions? I see some of you ordered the energy bus, so that's exciting.
And Jon Gordon, he writes a lot of books, and they're all very similar. The other book that I love, and I know that there are some employees that if you ask them to read something, they'll act like you have asked them to give up the world. But other employees like reading. I'm very conscious of not everybody enjoys reading, but I do think we might start to use some of the posters from the No Complaining Rule. The No Complaining Rule is another really good book by Jon Gordon, and it's like I one of the things that's in there, I say all the time, if you're going to bring me a problem, bring me a solution. And it just really talks about kind of reframing complaints. So Mary Ellen asked, how has council support been for this effort? I think we're fortunate in that our council has been very supportive of our staff in general. So they haven't been directly, involved in a lot of these things, but they do support, like if we say we want to do something, we want to close, here's one. If we want to close City Hall for an hour so that our employees can all attend, the potluck lunch, they've been very amenable to that. So I think our council's been they've been very supportive of moving to a pay for performance system. So for the most part, I'd say they're very supportive. They do show up when we have lunches for seasonals. We had breakfast for seasonals. Also, when we do these types of things, they do show up, not all the time, but sometimes. So I think there's a general support, but this is really, we've tried to keep this an employee-driven effort. Are there any other questions? Anything? All right. Well, thank you for spending some time with us. We will let you go get back to whatever else is on your desk. And, we have our wrap-up section coming up, but that'll only take a couple of minutes. So we will see you shortly. Thanks.
Thank you.